I just think your side has essentially abandoned a shared basis in fact from which we can discuss almost any issue.
I mean, that's a hard one for me to rebut, generalized. And I know that
it's tough because
you
it's
do a
true, my
show on
friend.
this on a daily basis, but well, I mean,
In today's video, David Pakman absolutely destroys Will Cain, a Fox News host, live on air in a heated debate on democracy and capitalism in the United States. And it doesn't take long for Will Cain's argument to fall apart. Now, Will tries to paint right-wing populism as a fight for the people, but David Pakman shuts that down fast, pointing out that it's more fueling cultural outrage while billionaires rig the system. Will Cain leans on buzzwords while Pakman sticks to facts. So let's dive in and watch how David Pakman shuts down Will Cain in this heated debate.
again, like you said earlier, you and I could do hours on this, but the party that's interested in a misinformation bureau while peddling misinformation is not one that's wedded to reality and the facts. My biggest criticism of your side would be the following: it's unmoored. While Donald Trump has moved Republicans in a populist direction, and populism's a fire you have to be careful with. It'll burn out of control. The plus side of populism is you're perhaps more in touch with the voter, their concerns, but you have to have principles to keep that fire under control. Yours is totally unmoored, and it just what was this? What's a sin today was a position yesterday, and the speed of which it goes, progressivism in general, is impossible to keep up with. I mean, Barack
What's an
Obama
example of that?
would be considered. Oh, gay marriage is an easy one. Moving into LGBTQ issues, moving into trans issues. I mean, like, Barack Obama was opposed to gay marriage. Here we are, 10 years later, a little more than that. And it's like we're having a fight about what is a boy and what is a girl and whether or not that can be self-defined. It's just totally unmoored from any kind of principle, and it follows whatever is perceived to be popular. I don't even think by the vast majority of people. You bring up cannabis. That's setting that one aside. I don't think you're following a 51% proposition on most of these unmoored positions. It's actually by a really radical, loud, extreme minority that drives you in these positions that are unmoored from principles, and who knows where that wind will take you. Your boat's going to end in really crazy seas if it's unmoored from not just like documents like limitations on power through the Constitution, but principles.
Yeah, that is a lot. So first of all, some of these allegations maybe are more appropriate for other people that are considered to be on the left. They don't ring true to me. I mean, to say, gay marriage as an example, it's been, 18 years, I think, since Obama changed his view on that or something like that. Gay marriage was a fight that lasted decades, it seems. I don't really know where gay marriage has a role to play here. What I can tell you is the following.
Well, it shows a starting point and a present point.
Yeah, it used to be illegal. Now it's legal. It's no big deal. There's been no societal harm that has come from it that I can identify. I mean, I don't know. We could talk about gay marriage.
Well,
but
we're not in a debate about gay marriage. We're having a debate about the way these positions evolve at such a rapid pace.
I am sure you can find, because we're doing this in good faith, I don't have to defend everything the left does. Yeah. I'm sure you can find examples of what you're talking about, of people who are completely unmoored, morally blind. We can find them on the left. We can find them on the right. I'm very comfortable with where I am on the political spectrum, which is that we are economically, socially democratic, which is a form of capitalism. It's a form of capitalism which is not dramatically different from what we have in the United States right now. Secular humanism as a sort of guiding light in terms of ethical and moral principles, which has overlap with some of the major religions, but doesn't want to impose it as a way of defining government. And in terms of your prediction of the ship sinking, it all kind of points to places like Denmark, which have an extraordinarily high standard of living, slightly higher taxes, which include a bunch of stuff you don't have to worry about paying for out of pocket. It's not a radical vision, in my view, and for most of the world,
You know what else is radical? You not hitting that subscribe button. So if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider hitting that like button and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. Now, Will Cain tries to paint progressivism as unmoored, constantly shifting, and driven by a loud radical minority. But David Pakman isn't buying it. Will kicks things off by acting like populism is a fire that needs control, but then tries to argue that progressives have no principle and just follows trends. His example, gay marriage, claiming that since Obama once opposed it and later supported it, it just somehow proves the left is just aimlessly floating wherever public opinion goes. But that's not the case. Like David Pakman said, legalizing gay marriage wasn't some sudden shift. It was the result of decades of activism and growing public support. Is that a bad thing? No, it just happened and it means more rights for more people, which is ultimately a good thing. Will then shifts to the idea that progressives have no real principles. Pakman pushes back. Progressive policies like universal healthcare, workers' rights, and economic safety nets are based on clear, long-standing principles. The difference is that they evolve with society, which is exactly what democracy is supposed to do. So I don't get what Will's trying to say here. He's just throwing around buzzwords and bad arguments, acting like democracy is the problem. But let's be real, right-wing populism doesn't actually fix anything. It just fires people up with fear and outrage while the rich keep rigging the system for themselves.
In the abstract, I understand. In the abstract, I understand it doesn't sound radical. What I would say is that point, always pointing to the Scandinavian nations as a model for the future, is just, it's like pointing to the moon. It's just not the same place as a nation of, what are we now, 350 million people, incredibly diverse. I mean, that's a homogenous society where a social safety net is much easier to sell than a diverse country like America. What's that?
That argument falls flat. I've got a whole chapter in my forthcoming book, The Echo Machine, about this. It's often said that the homogeneity argument is often repeated about Denmark, about Sweden. You actually look in 2024 at the breakdown in terms of national origin and in terms of race. It's changed dramatically. The countries are still doing well. The business environment is good. I would also add, Will,
that's a recent phenomenon.
We don't only, well, no, it's been changing since the 70s. We don't only have to look at Scandinavian countries. We can look at Uruguay around 2010. Obviously, we have to adjust for the broader environment in Latin America. We can look at the Kerala state in India. We can look at the German Socially Democratic Party. I don't want to turn this into a history lesson, but if you're bored with homogenous countries and Scandinavia, we can look elsewhere. It's fine.
Well, we'll leave this. We'll go one last current event topic, but just more on this esoteric, broader thing. Yeah, my vision is completely different than yours. While you describe this social democratic economy, undergirded by secular humanism, mine is a capitalist, laissez-faire. Relatively, everything is graded on a scale here. Society with limited government as imposed by founding documents, some of the most genius documents created in the history of man, but undergirded by a Judeo-Christian ethic that is required. The founding fathers believed that, by the way, like you have to have some type of governor on society, and that governor is the individual morality of your civilians, not the moral imposition of a government. And so that vision we have, I think, is pretty different. Freedom is great, but freedom isn't the end of the story, right? Human behavior has to be limited in some way, and that limitation, as envisioned here, and my argument is all those countries you make is they're nothing compared to the United States. This experiment, based upon that foundation that I just described, has been the best in humanity.
All right. We definitely have different visions. I mean, I think it sounds like you want to move on, but I think it's an interesting question to explore. If the religious component is so important, why are some of the most prosperous and safest countries with the best business environments the least religious? Something to think about.
You talking about Europe?
Some of them are in Europe.
Yeah. I think that my argument in response to that would be Europe is living at the tail end of an experiment, economically, population base-wise, that you're looking at essentially the Joe Biden of civilizations. You're looking at civilizations in decline, living on a past where, to your point of Scandinavia, they were much more homogenous, all much more bought in to a social democratic experiment, shared interest, shared future, that when you're dealing with a massively diverse population, the best way you can push everybody forward is honestly through freedom. That's, I mean, maximalization of freedom.
All right, that's fine. Yeah, and just as a reminder,
All right.
my vision is a capitalist vision as well, as long as we're on the same page about that.
Will tries the classic argument that countries like Denmark and Sweden only succeed because they're small and mostly the same, but Pakman shuts that down really fast, pointing out that these countries have gotten way more diverse since the 70s and still lead in quality life, economic stability, and business environments. And to make sure Will can't just wiggle out of it, Pakman also points to Uruguay, Kerala in India, and Germany's Democratic Party, showing that diversity isn't the problem. Then Will just switches the argument, basically saying freedom plus religion equals to success. But Pakman doesn't let that slide, asking if religion is so essential, why are some of the most successful and safest countries also the least religious? And of course, Will doesn't have much of an answer, so he just throws out the usual line about Europe being in decline without backing it up with facts or proof. At the end of the day, David Pakman completely exposed Will Cain's weak arguments and lack of evidence in this debate. Will came into this debate with a bunch of vague talking points and buzzwords, but couldn't really back it up with a single claim. Pakman hit him with just straight facts. And when Pakman did, Will just either switched the argument or fell back on cliches about freedom and founding documents. But this is it for today's video. If you've enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comment section down below.